Two-point control, also called on-off control, is the simplest type of closed-loop control strategy. The actuator can push the control variable with only full force or no force. When the actuator is off, the control variable settles back to some rest state. A good example of two-point control is a thermostatically controlled heating system. Consider a house sitting for a long time with the heat turned off and an outside temperature of 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Eventually, the inside temperature would drop to 50 degrees. This is the rest state temperature. Now, suppose the heat is turned on and the thermostat is set for an average temperature of 70 degrees. As figure A shows, the inside temperature begins to climb, rapidly at first, and then more slowly as the heat losses increase. When the temperature reaches the 72-degree cutoff point, the furnace shuts down. The house temperature immediately starts to decline towards its rest state of 50 degrees. But long before it gets there, it reaches the cut-on point of 68 degrees, and the furnace comes back on. Notice that the temperature curve is like a charging and discharging capacitor. A larger furnace would steepen the charging curve, and a larger house, or poorer insulation, would steepen the discharging curve, because the inside temperature would fall more quickly. Notice there is a cycle time, T-cyc, associated with two-point control. This cycle time is affected by the capacity of the furnace and the house, as well as the temperature difference between the cut-on and cut-off points. If the limits were moved closer together, say 69 degrees and 71 degrees, the temperature would be maintained closer to 70, but the cycle frequency would increase, as is illustrated in figure B. Generally, a high cycle rate is undesirable because of wear on motors and switches. Consequently, two-point control has only limited applications, mostly on slow-moving systems where it is acceptable for the control variable to come back and forth between the two limit points. Three-position control is similar to two-point control, except in this case the controller has three states, such as forward, off and reverse, or up, off and down, hot, off or cold, and so on. This strategy would be used in a system that has no particular self-seeking rest state. For example, consider the case of a floating oil drilling platform that needs to stay over the wellhead on the ocean bottom, as is illustrated in figure A. The platform must not drift more than 5 foot away from the center, or the pipe may break. Two motors, A and B, are used to keep the platform centered on the east-west axis. The north-south axis would be handled with other motors. If the platform drifts more than 5 feet east, motor A comes on and drives it back towards the center. Motor B will come on if the platform drifts more than 5 foot west. Figure B shows an example of the platform's east-west movement. Notice that the control variable, the platform position, will tend to oscillate back and forth across the center because the motor size selected was based on worst-case conditions, strong winds. In calm weather, a brief on period of motor A may give the platform enough momentum to drift completely across the dead zone, only to be pushed back by motor B. In fact, if the system is not designed properly, the back and forth oscillations would get bigger and bigger, in which case the system has gone unstable, which is shown in figure C. On the other hand, if the wind is too strong for the motor, the platform will be driven outside the 5-foot limit, and the pipe will break, as is shown in figure D. Three-position control is a simple control strategy that is appropriate for a limited number of applications, such as the one given. Looking for me?
You paused.